Tennis has a long history of white elitism, but that hasn't stopped Black women from excelling. From Althea Gibson to Venus and Serena Williams to Naomi Osaka, African American female tennis players have been defying the odds and winning big, from Wimbledon to the US Open. Today, we are asking, at what price? All coming up next.
Live from Los Angeles, this is the Special Report with Areva Martin.
In 2018, hours after tennis champion Serena Williams shrugged off by a decision by the president of the French Open to ban her attire, she was taking a selfie with the first ever Black president of the U.S. Tennis Association at a stadium dedicated to the only Black man to win at Wimbledon. Serena, Venus, and two other Black players, Madison Keys and Sloane Stephens, were there representing America. They were there representing the country at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center for its 50th annual Grand Slam Championship. Yet their talents and prestige did not shield them from the sport's legacy of elitism. See, Serena was being criticized by the French Open president for wearing a Black catsuit. The French president said, quote, "One must respect the game and place," end quote. Predictably, social media exploded with rage. Diminishing female talent by cisgender white men is pretty familiar in a sport where women have to play by rules that were made without their input. Sadly, Black female tennis players can't escape the stereotypical tropes that are often associated with all Black women, that we're too loud, that we're too powerful, and in the case of Serena, too disrespectful. We're questioning today and asking, will Serena's star power be the tipping point for a sport that was started by wealthy white men toward the end of the Victorian era? Will things finally change? Particularly given that Serena is, as she calls it, evolving. My first guest this morning is a professional tennis player. Her name is Brianne Miner. She goes by Bree. She is the first Black female tennis player to win a Division I NCAA singles title at the University of Michigan. Good morning and welcome, Bree.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Wow, thanks so much. What was your impression first when you heard that Serena was, as she calls it, evolving, not retiring, but kind of moving on to that next, stage in her life?
Yeah, I think she's just done so much already. The things that she's achieved has just been so inspirational to the tennis community and to the Black community. And, wanting to go to that next chapter in her life, you can't really blame her. She's just done it for so long and has already achieved a lot. So, I think obviously Serena always does what she wants to do, which is also another reason why she's so inspiring. So I think it's really cool to see her go to that next chapter. And it's kind of exciting for us to see, and probably for her as well with her family too now, to just see what her next steps are.
Yeah, so you are just graduated from University of Michigan in 2020, so 2 years ago. On the circuit for the last couple of years. Who did you grow up watching and being inspired by in the professional tennis world?
Oh, definitely Serena and Venus for sure. Serena and Venus were definitely the definition of Black excellence, right? Without a doubt. And ever since I was a little girl watching Serena on the big screen and having a dream to be in Serena's exact position, it was just amazing to see someone who not only looked like me, but was the best of the best. And that really motivated and inspired me to work really hard and give it my all in tennis, so that, when I saw Serena on that screen, it resonated with me that if she can do it, a Black female athlete, so can I. So I definitely grew up watching them play all the time.
So did you grow up in Michigan? I know you went to the University of Michigan, but where did you grow up?
Mundelein, Illinois.
Okay, so in Illinois, is that outside of Chicago, that city?
Yeah, that's about an hour north of Chicago.
Okay, so when did you start playing?
I started about 4 or 5 years old. I have two older sisters who also played competitive tennis and in college. My parents played, my aunts played, one of my cousins played, and my grandpa played. So they really just put a racket in my hand right when I came.
Talk about a tennis family, my goodness. Okay, parents, sisters, aunt, cousin. I mean, like the
basically
whole
everyone.
Oh my God. So now your sisters actually played in college the same way that you did, right?
Yes. Yeah. We all played D1 college.
Wow. Now, were you the first, though, to win this D1 NCAA singles title?
Yeah, I was. I was the first Black female to win it, and it was just absolutely surreal. I didn't think I was going to win it until I was in the finals, really. So it was just amazing that I could do it for myself, for the Black community, and for, my school as well, just representing Michigan too.
So what, like your family, how did they feel about that? I mean, they obviously know your greatness. They know how, accomplished you are and capable you are. But what was it like for your parents who had played and your sisters who had played in college to see you become the first, Black woman to win that title?
Yeah, I mean, they were just extremely happy for me. And my sisters were in New Jersey at the time, drove all the way down to Georgia to watch my semifinals and finals match. My parents were there. Some of my best friends came too. And it really made the moment all that more special. And I think there is something to say about being the youngest in my family, and also like going to Serena being the youngest in her family. We have older sisters who play tennis, and we learn from them, and they're our role models. So I feel like that's definitely the reason why, Serena achieved so much. She wouldn't have done it without Venus, and I wouldn't have done it without, watching my sisters all those years growing up, watching them play, going to their tournaments. So, I mean, it's all because of them.
I love that about you, that you are recognizing that you are standing on the shoulders of your sisters and your parents and others that, played before you, and that you learned from watching them. Now, did your sisters go on to play on the professional circuit too?
No, they stopped after college.
So how about anyone else in the family? Did anyone else go pro, or are you the first?
No, I'm the first one.
Oh, wow. Okay. You're setting all these records, the first to win this.
Yeah.
I know now, the first in the family to go pro. No, you won an actual wild card into the U.S. Open. So you've already played in like one of the biggest tournaments in the world, the U.S. Open. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, and that was actually my first time being at the U.S. Open. I had never gone to watch or anything. So the atmosphere there is crazy. And just being able to be in the locker room in Arthur Ashe Stadium, you're bumping into all the people you've watched growing up on TV. It's really, unfortunately, Serena wasn't there that year. But I bumped into Venus in the locker room, saw Roger Federer, and it was just such a cool experience that I will never forget. And, it's just very surreal.
Wow. Have you played any other big tournaments other than at the U.S. Open since you've gone pro?
No, not yet. Hopefully that's the goal.
Next. Okay. So, talk about your experiences. So, I opened the show talking about the elitism of tennis. Tennis was started by some wealthy men, who eventually started, this lawn game that evolved into the USTA. The rules that were set about the matches, men play 5 versus women playing 3. And some historians say that was simply because men decided that women weren't strong enough. No other reason, just their arbitrary decision-making about women, our bodies, our strength, our endurance. And obviously all these rules that are set about what you wear on the tennis, court during a match, set by men, rules made by men. How has, it impacted you to play in a sport that has traditionally been, reserved for people who have access to country clubs? Because not many tennis courts exist. I'm not sure about the community you grew up in, but I grew up in St. Louis. I don't think I ever saw a tennis court in the community where I grew up. So it's not a sport that's readily accessible like, basketball. In a lot of Black communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think I was very fortunate. There were a few clubs around me, actually a lot of tennis clubs around me. And I was able to find a coach and a great academy that I grew up playing with. And yeah, I mean, I think I definitely am fortunate because of what Serena and Venus had done and creating more diversity in the tennis community, because they obviously grew up in a tougher time period playing tennis. I've never faced racism and hate on the court. I never had to deal with that. I still, obviously a majority of my club and majority of tournaments, I'm seeing a lot of white tennis players. You don't see a lot of Black American tennis players in the sport, and you especially don't see them at the top. So I think what Serena did, especially the way she came into the tennis world, coming from like her background coming from a poor neighborhood, not having a lot of money, and also just when she steps out into the court, she is pushing the envelope of conventional tennis wisdom, right? She's wearing beads in her hair. She is wearing unique outfits. She's very muscular. She's very passionate on the court. And I think that inspired us, especially Black women, I guess all Black athletes, men and women, to express ourselves in any way we want to. So I think growing up, I wasn't afraid to, express myself on the tennis court because of what Serena had done. So, yeah.
Yeah, thinking about, obviously, like you said, Serena, wearing the white beads, wearing cornrows to begin with, wearing the outfits, like the one that she was criticized, the cat suit that she was criticized by the French Open, Open president, calling it disrespectful, basically saying, we got to be respectful, whatever that means. And I'm thinking about Flojo. I don't know if you remember her. She was this amazing track and field, Florence Griffith Joyner track and field star. She wore long fingernails and expressed herself in a way, her fashion, combining sports with fashion. And you think about men who get all these big contracts for tennis shoes. I mean, that's just fashion. At the end of the day, people wearing, these Air Jordans, it's a fashion statement. Guys that aren't on the basketball field, they're not playing basketball, they're making a fashion statement. But yet when Serena was making fashion statements, it was somehow disrespectful of the sport. Have you experienced any of that? I know you said you haven't experienced any racism, but what about just even being diminished by what you wear or the choices that you make in terms of how you show up?
No, I mean, really, luckily, I've never faced any kind of, no one's ever diminished me. It's like, I've really just been surrounded. I've been very lucky being surrounded by a great support system and a great community. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I just feel like it's a double standard with Serena and women like her, what they wear. And if they're showing her passion on the court comes off as loud and angry and sassy. But if a man does it, it's confidence and entertaining and exciting. It's just being able to, you're doing the exact same thing they're doing. You're just a female, and that's why they have a problem with it.
Yeah, you describe it as passion, but yes, she's often been, called too loud, and that's a stereotypical trope that's associated with a lot of Black women when we speak up, use our voices. We are then the angry Black woman. And
exactly.
I use that word exciting because it is because of people like Serena and that passion that makes the sport exciting, which causes viewers to tune in, which causes people to go to those stadiums and pack them in. So which has caused the popularity of the sport, but yet, she's also so criticized for that. And we know, but for the electrifying performances of both Venus, and we should give her a lot of credit too, who paved the way for her sister.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't be where it is today. What are you as a young player, not having to deal with a lot that Venus and Serena had to deal with, and obviously not coming from the same impoverished background that they did, but still, having to face challenges as a Black woman. Where do you see the sport going, and where would you like to see it go?
I would just like to see, for me, when I won the NCAA singles title, being the first to do that, it's always amazing being the first Black person to achieve something big. But the ultimate goal is to open the doors and pave the way for more Black people to get to where we are and encourage them to achieve what seems like the impossible. And I feel like Serena and Venus did that for my generation, and I would like to do that for younger Black females as well. And I think the goal is just to get more Black people into the sport and dominating in the sport like Serena and Venus. And we're starting to see that with Coco Gauff, Naomi Osaka, Frances Tiafoe, Sloane Stephens, Madison Keys. So it's definitely getting there. It's just, people, and especially those people at the top, using their platform and keep paving the way for others.
What about about Naomi, I'm glad you brought her up. So Naomi has, been outspoken about mental health, about the pressures of being a professional athlete, and really opening up that conversation. And we're seeing a lot of basketball players and other professional athletes do that. How have you dealt with that tremendous pressure that comes with whether it's D1, college sports,
Right.
or now professional sports?
Yeah. And I feel like as Black female athletes, we face different pressures than our white counterparts because we face the pressure to excel at our sport and also inspiring our community at the same time. And I feel like what Naomi did, even Simone Biles with stepping out of the Olympics for her mental health, I think mental health just comes first, and, you're going to get criticized, especially a Black female athlete. But it's you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, especially at the Olympics.
When you play, because you said something really, I think we should pause on, which is feeling as if you are carrying, the race, like your failures and your success are interwoven with how our community is viewed. Is that something that you carry with you every time you step out on that court?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like when I lose a match, it's just, you take it to heart, and it's really hard to just kind of put it in the past and move on to the next, especially after winning NCAAs. I feel like I had to continue to win and win. And when I didn't, it was just so heartbreaking and tough on me. And sometimes it's really hard to recover from that because you want to make your community proud. You want to make your family proud, your team proud. And it's a lot of pressure.
You were what? Were you 20 years old when that happened?
It was my sophomore year of college. So I would have been 19, 19. Yeah.
Okay. So, here you are at 19 years old feeling this incredible weight. How did you deal with it? Did you have to, seek out counseling? Did you just rely on your family, your faith? How did you deal with it?
Yeah, I'd go to some counseling in college, which I think every athlete should do. It's just because I feel like tennis, especially, I'm sure all sports too, it's more of a mental game than it is a physical. So I think seeing someone just talking about it is definitely the number one thing you should do. And also, I did lean on my family and my friends, and, they're my biggest, they always hype me up and always remind me of my past achievements, which also really helped. And also going back and watching myself win NCAA has always helped. Watching, great matches that I played, people I've beaten also helps. I would lean on my support system so much.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear you say that. I have two daughters. They also played tennis for a while until injuries. But one of my daughters talks about just being in counseling on a regular, not for anything in particular. And I'm just so glad to see that, younger women like you and my daughter are open about your mental health and not ashamed to say that, you're putting it first, you're getting support for it, because we know, and I know as a mom who, went through the tennis journey with my daughters, how much pressure there is to win and to, as you said, lose a match, that recovering and feeling somehow that it's a reflection on you and feeling inadequate and that you let so many people down.
Yeah.
What do you hope to see? Do you think there's enough support from the USTA for young women, particularly women of color who are coming up in the sport?
I feel like there could definitely be more. I feel like it's gotten better over the years, which is good to see. But also just the stigma around mental health. Growing up playing tennis, I feel like, it wasn't common for someone to see a therapist and talk about mental health. We're just taught to be tough out there and to not let our emotions get the best of us. So I think even not just counseling, but also coaches and parents, and also making sure that you're letting the player know it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to show emotion. I think the USTA could definitely bring in more help for sure.
Well, I am just so incredibly proud of you. You've already accomplished so much. And I am so grateful that you have parents and sisters and this huge support system, because so many players don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm so glad that you do, and you don't take it for granted, and you're not all about me. It's a big basketball culture out there, but you seem so grounded. I don't know your parents, but tell them, hey, they did a phenomenal job with you. You are just
thank you,
young woman inside and out, because I know firsthand what that pressure is like, and you seem to be walking in such, grace and confidence, but also humility, which I think is always, always something that is important for us to have and can carry us far in whatever career paths we choose. So, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Continue to watch you as your star rises. Looking forward to seeing you back at the U.S. Open. Know that Serena, I'm sure, is just thrilled as she is evolving to her next chapter to see, like you said, Sloane and Madison and Naomi and Bree and this whole cadre of young Black women who are coming behind her. So her job is done. I mean, she's
Yep.
Grand Slams. She's broken records. She's changed the sport, and she's laid the foundation for a bench, which I think is the true
Yeah.
testament to any leader. Is not what they do, but what they do for others who are going to come behind them. And she has done
Yeah.
a job in inspiring so many young women like yourself. So again, kudos to you, to your sisters and your parents and all those
Thank you.
in your family.
Yeah.
For you, they said it high, and you just crushed it, girl. So
Thank
appreciate you
you.
joining me this morning.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Okay. All right, we are moving on. We were talking about Serena because we can't we can't sleep on Serena and what's happening with her. She's evolving, going on to that next chapter. So excited to see what's going to be next for her. She's already conquered the fashion world, the beauty world, obviously the world of professional tennis. So who knows what's next for Serena? She's married to that tech billionaire, and I know she invests heavily herself in tech startups and other companies. So she's a serial entrepreneur. So I know some good things are happening for her. But I'm just so happy that beyond what Serena and Venus did on the court, that they did pave the way for young players like Bree. That's what it's all about. So kudos to those amazing young women from Compton, California. All right. If you watched the Emmys, you saw that Kenan Thompson was the host this year. He did a phenomenal job. I hope he gets invited back. Hosting those award shows is talk about pressure. So much pressure. And oftentimes, social media is not kind to those hosts. And a lot of times they don't want to come back. We know, Chris Rock was asked to come back to host the Oscars, and he's like, not this year. So we'll see if Kenan is invited back. But lots of great things happened at this year's Emmys, including my good friend Cheryl Lee Ralph, who happened to be an award recipient of the Special Needs Network's. At our EUS Gala, we give awards to amazing people doing phenomenal things. And Cheryl Lee Ralph, a couple years ago, got one of our awards because Cheryl is a huge HIV advocate. People know her for the work that she does on television and her Broadway performances, but she has an organization that is focused on raising money to help individuals living with HIV and AIDS. And she does this amazing concert every year in Los Angeles to raise money for her foundation, where she gives, again, she's given away millions of dollars to support the AIDS causes and AIDS foundations. But Cheryl was in rare form at the Emmys. She started, first of all, she was looking fabulous. Like, look at Cheryl. I mean, they say she's 65. She looks, 42 maybe. Gorgeous hair. I love the diamonds all over her head. I love the gown that she had on. She was so shocked when they called her. I saw the expression on her face. Her husband was with her. Her children were with her. And she went up to the stage, and before she started talking, she started singing. And you guys may not remember, but Cheryl Lee Ralph is an amazing singer. She was one of the original Dream Girls on Broadway with Jennifer Holliday, Loretta Devine. Cheryl Lee Ralph has a powerful voice, and she likes to sing this anthem where she basically says, I am not a victim. I'm not a victim. And I love to hear her sing that wherever she goes. And the other thing, when she did stop singing and start talking, she said, look, anyone that has a dream out there, never, ever, ever, ever give up on your dream, because Cheryl has been in this business for such a long period of time, and she's just getting her first Emmy. So go ahead, Cheryl. We see you. We are so proud of you, and we were at home cheering loudly for you. All right, next, one of my All-time favorites, Lizzo. I love Lizzo. Anyone that knows me knows I love Lizzo. I follow her on Instagram. I take screenshots of her Instagram posts and I send them to my daughters and my friends, and they're like, okay, Mom, okay, Areva, we get it. You love Lizzo. So Lizzo creates this reality dance show for big girls, and she wins an Emmy for it, for big girls. And okay, having this debate with my producer, was Lizzo the first African-American big girl to be on television and to, rep for women who have bigger and fuller bodies? And my producer loves Oprah, and I love Oprah too, but I love Lizzo more. But my producer said Oprah was the first African American woman that wasn't a size 2. And sure, Oprah was a bigger woman than what we have been used to seeing on television. And she did break so many barriers for so many people. She made a surprise visit at the Emmy Awards. But Oprah, unlike Lizzo, you guys got to remember this and remember accurately, she was not like a big champion for big girls. Oprah was always on this quest to lose weight. And if you remember her magazine covers, they always painted her like a size 8 or a size 10. Whereas Lizzo spends her entire, life repping for big girls. Now, she did say she went on a diet during COVID. And of course, being healthy is what it's all about. But I don't know. I just see Lizzo in a different category. And maybe Lizzo was inspired by Oprah because Oprah inspired so many people. And I'm definitely one of the people that count myself lucky to work in television because she paved the way for so many people. So we can love Oprah and still appreciate that Lizzo is the true big girl in television. So hats off to both of them. And then Zendaya, she won for Euphoria. Again, love this young lady. She is so talented. Love everything that she does. It was such a great night for her. And then there was this surprise that I was not expecting, and that was Gerard Carmichael. He won an award. And if you guys have not seen his HBO special, where he comes out and talks about being gay and what that process was for him to acknowledge to himself that he is gay, to tell his very religious mother that he was gay, to tell his father, to tell his friends and what he calls his hood. It's a powerful, it's not your typical comedy, so you're not going to be rolling on the floor laughing, but it is this powerful, story told by this young Black guy. It's called Rathaniel because Gerard Carmichael's real name is Rathaniel. It is such a powerful, 1 hour you get to spend in this very intimate setting. You feel like you're like sitting across from him. And he's talking about how difficult it is, even in 2022, to be a gay Black man. And a part of me, I'm crying throughout because I'm thinking, oh my God, are people still homophobic? Are people still making it difficult for men or women to express who they are and who they prefer to love? And the reality is, when you see the specialist, yes, it's still very difficult for gay people to talk about being gay, particularly, he said, in Hollywood. But he did it. And guess what? He showed up at those Emmys looking fabulous. And he went home with an Emmy award. And that was his first. And I am certain that it will not be his last because he is super, super, super talented. All right. Then we got to talk about Abbott Elementary. Yes, Abbott Elementary. This sitcom, ABC sitcom that was really based on Quinta's, her mother, who's I think a school teacher in Philadelphia. She writes this story about this elementary school, and that's where my friend Shirley Ralph plays one of the school teachers in this sitcom, and she wins this Best Supporting Actress Emmy for. But Quinta made history because she's, I think, only the second African-American person or woman, I got to make sure my facts are right, to win an Emmy in the comedy writing category. It's in the comedy writing category that she won this Emmy award. Okay, and now we're asking, why was Jimmy Kimmel laying on the stage as Quinta accepted her award? And there's this big controversy about was he, exerting his white male privilege as Quinta Brunson was up there, and when this should have been her moment on the stage alone, and she's stepping over Jimmy Kimmel, and he's laying there. Now, some people says, well, Quinta didn't say anything about it. She says she's cool. Jimmy gave her a shot on his show. Yeah, people, that's right. But that doesn't have anything to do with those of us who are activists and advocates. We got to call out those microaggressions. We got to call out that, exertion, that assertion of white male privilege when we see it, because that's how we change it. And if we just ignore that, then it keeps happening. So I didn't expect Quinta, who is gracious and poised and, just so excited about winning this award to go on a rant about Jimmy Kimmel. No, she shouldn't. She should be at home celebrating, jumping up and down because she won an Emmy. But that doesn't stop, again, those of us who know to call it out. And that's what I've been doing. And I hope others are. And I hope Jimmy is somewhere sitting at home saying, that's not cool. I got a whole television show where I get to do all kinds of gimmicks whenever I want to do them. And let Quinta Brunson have her moment without you being on the stage. Okay, so that's my recap of the Emmys. Now I got to talk about a very dear friend, a giant in the comedy world who passed away suddenly, unexpectedly, at home on Thursday, Dave Arnold. I first got introduced to Dave watching him on Facebook. He made the most incredible, funniest videos about his family, his wife and his two daughters. And he would just post them on Facebook. And I don't know, me and my kids, we just found these videos once. And we would spend hours watching Dave Arnold on Facebook videos. And we knew Dave Arnold had a big future in the comedy world because these videos were so funny. And Dave just finished his second Netflix special. He was on a big multi-city tour. He had just executive produced. He was just the executive producer on a television show. His career was blowing up. He's been a guest on the Special Report. He toured with my good friend, Kim Whitley, who's also been a guest on the Special Report. They had a tour, a show called He Said, She Said, that toured the whole country, and the two of them would do their stand-up separately, and then they would come together at the end. I had a chance to see them work the stage together on multiple occasions, and they are just, it was one of the funniest shows you ever want to see. So my heart goes out to my good friend Kim, who for her, Dave was like a brother to her. They spent hours and hours and days on the road together, traveling, doing these comedy shows. They were super, super close. I think she told me he was the first person ever to invite her to a concert at the Hollywood Bowl. I took her about a month ago, and she told me the first time she'd ever been at the Bowl, she was there to see Cynthia Erivo with Dave Arnold. So they were very, very close. So I know her heart is just broken right now. He was a father to two daughters. He was a husband, a loving husband. He talked, so affectionately about his wife and his two kids. And he's from Cleveland, Ohio. He grew up with a stepfather who he loved dearly. He met his biological father as an adult. I know all of this about Dave because this was all part of his comedy routine. And he shared so authentically and so openly about, his families and struggling to make a relationship with his dad and, the strict home he grew up with the stepfather and how he was trying to implement some of those rules from his childhood with his daughters and how his, millennial daughters, Gen Z daughters weren't having it. So he was just a bright light. He was only 54 years old. And I think he may have had a heart attack. He fell at home. And by the time they got, to the hospital, he had passed away. Really, really sad day. So many in the, the comedy world are still just in disbelief, mourning the death of Dave Arnold, our friend, gone too soon. Thank you so much for joining me for the show. Thank you for celebrating Bree and celebrating Serena, celebrating all of those Emmy Award winners. And again, prayers up for Dave Arnold and his family. Be safe out there, and remember, we're all in this together.